Good afternoon, everyone. Guys, more from Ukraine, this time in the context of Ukraine has just launched, or they've just struck their biggest drone strike on Russia as far as the war is so far. So this is just an update from literally 7 minutes ago, guys. I'll share it with you in a minute anyway on the shared screen. But when we have these conversations and when they're coming out in the news and they're talking about British weapons being used and NATO weapons being used inside Ukraine, guys, it's kind of a non-argument because the Ukrainians are doing this anyway with their own drones. And there's a lot of people saying, a lot of commentators saying that, oh, the Ukrainians, they're these drones that they're using, they're Western drones and they're using a lot of Western technology. Where that may be true, what I would say is the Ukrainians have been able to improvise. They've been able to adapt and overcome to this situation. So I think a lot of the drones that are striking into Russia, I think a lot of them are Ukrainian made. And I think as we move forward, into the future, I think Ukraine is going to be the industry standard for drones. And I think the West are actually counter to what people are saying. I think the West are going to be looking at how to use drones, and they're going to be looking into Ukraine and asking them for advice, rather than what we're led to believe here in the UK, that it's the Ukrainians who are asking us how to use it. Again, that's my opinion, that's my speculation. So what's been happening recently, guys? Well, the Ukrainians, as I understand it from this article, and I've not read the whole article, guys, so we're going to read it together, but from what I understand from this article, the Ukrainians have started to target Russian airfields, Russian civilian airports. Now, I don't know if that's true. We're going to look at it here, guys. I literally just read the... here we are. Ukraine-Russia war latest. Huge drone attack hits Moscow region as Kremlin claims control of Ukrainian towns. So let's not worry about that. We've already been seeing what's been happening with those Ukrainian... In fact, we'll have a look at the war map in a minute, guys, after that, but I want to focus on this here. More than 30 flights suspended in Moscow as one of the largest airports comes under attack. Guys, that is a huge escalation. Let's not understate how big of an escalation this is. Let me read it again. More than 30 flights suspended in Moscow as one of the largest airports comes under drone. Yeah, that is what it says. So we've got the Ukrainians now attacking Moscow's, as it says there, largest airports. This is a huge escalation because now we're attacking, now the Ukrainians are going for potentially civilian targets. Whereas, the energy grid and the energy infrastructure, I class that, although it is a civilian target, I also class that as a military civilian target because, once you take out somebody's power, it's a strategic gambit for whoever's taking it out. Ukraine has launched what is likely to be its largest drone attack of the war so far, with Russian air defenses saying it downed 144 of the unmanned aerial vehicles across 9 different regions. At least 20 of the drones were downed over Moscow. Russian officials said where dozens of flights were cancelled and several major airports suspended operations. 2 floors of a multi-story apartment block in the southeast Moscow region of Ramenskoye were picture destroyed. So, guys, imagine what's just happened? Imagine where you would be if the Ukrainians destroyed an airliner with a load of civilians. Imagine the next escalation. Imagine what comes next. It comes as Russian Security Council Chief Sergei Shoigu claimed that Russia was pushing on its offensive in eastern Ukraine. The Ministry of Defense, formerly run by Shoigu, claimed Russian forces had taken several towns in the Donetsk region. They offered no evidence or to substantiate these claims. Well, guys, we've seen these. Which brings us nicely onto my war map. So let's go. So let's stop with that and talk about that for a little bit. So these escalations, guys, and like I said at the beginning of the video, all this smoke and mirrors and this pageantry when David Lammy goes out there and, guys, I really struggle not to be like, It's difficult. When David Lammy, the British Foreign Secretary, goes out there to negotiate the use of long-range missiles into Russia, you know, this thing's already happening. So I think this could have been timed perfectly with the, you know, because David Lammy, I think he's going out there tomorrow with his American counterpart, Anthony Blinken. So what I think this drone strike is to prove, it's so to prove to the Russians, to say, sorry, for the Ukrainians to be able to say, look, we're doing this already. You know, we just need you guys to help us a little bit more. There's going to be no, you know, the collateral is there. We're doing it anyway. So why not give us these missiles to help us be more effective, help us lower the collateral? By collateral, I mean civilian casualties. So once David Lammy's out there and they're talking about these negotiations and all this stuff's happening, guys, you know, it just seems to me on the outside that it's just a lot of pageantry, a lot of pomp, and it kind of feels like a pantomime. It feels like these decisions have already been made. Remember, we're going to see this divergence by the United States. They're going to be focusing on Iran, the Middle East, with the potential for a conflict in the South China Sea. And then you're going to have the United Kingdom and the rest of the EU focusing on Ukraine and the Russian conflict. Now, imagine the, so I've just done a video, guys, about the Iranians giving the Russians a load of ballistic missiles, a load of long-range ballistic missiles. Now, I think, and it's fair to speculate, that this is for Putin's revenge attack, his revenge attack for the Ukrainians going and taking some of his land. Can you imagine how furious Putin would be and how furious the Russians will be if the Ukrainians take out a civilian airliner full of civilians, if they take out some large airport and close Russian airspace down? And at what point is Russian airspace going to be closed down? Because, guys, you know, can you imagine if you're an airline company now? You know, I wouldn't, whoever flies in and out of Moscow, I'm sure all the big ones do. You know, if you're one of these big airline companies, you need insurance or you're not going anywhere. Can you imagine the insurance premiums of these airlines now? Can you imagine the airline company saying, yeah, thanks, Putin, but, you know, we're not flying in and out of you guys anymore because, you know, the Ukrainians are putting drones on the tarmac. This is where this is going to go, guys. And nobody can underestimate what has just happened, all right? This is going to have a huge knock-on effect to the Russian economy. Think about all the airlines now, guys, who are looking and thinking, oh, right, okay, well, we're not going to be flying in there anymore because we've got airplanes and they're quite expensive and we don't want a drone to go through the window of one of our airplanes. Certainly not while it's on the ground, and least of all while it's taking off or landing. So, you know, that's going to have a huge knock-on effect to the Russian economy. It's going to have a huge knock-on effect to the Russian, it's going to have a huge knock-on effect in trust to the Russian people. And again, guys, my opinion is that the Russian people already don't like the regime they have there. It will be my opinion, a lot of Russians, if they're allowed to speak freely, you know, like we're not allowed to speak freely in the United Kingdom. In fact, I came across a statistic somewhere saying in Russia, they have they gave a certain year in Russia, they arrested like 300 people for online posts. In the United Kingdom, it was close to like 4,000 or something daft like that. It was insane. And I was like, wow, who's really the free country? So anyway, so I think if you ask a lot of people in Russia, I'd say they would want a new government. They'd want new leadership. And I think this is more, what's the word I'm looking for? It's more weight for the Russian people to have, you know, potentially a revolution, you know, rioting, protests, wanting to overthrow the regime. I really do feel that could be heading that way. And remember what I said in my last video, like 5 minutes ago, or whatever, well, like, I don't know, half an hour ago or something. I said, you know, if Russia falls, if Russia cannot win this conflict, whatever a win looks like, we don't know. If Russia can't win this conflict, then you're going to have balkanization of that whole region, you know, and Russia's going to be reduced to this tiny little country, and then you're going to have you're going to have a load of other little, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just going to be balkanized, basically, where you've got lots of different countries who are no longer part of Russia, and then Russia will be absolutely tiny, and that will be the end to Russia. That's why Putin cannot lose. And everybody in Russia knows this. They all know this and they've all accepted this. They're like, right, okay, yeah, I mean, we're in this. It's a bit rubbish, but yeah, it's just is what it is. We can't win, so we've got to keep. Sorry, we can't lose. We've just got to keep pushing. You know, guys, if you've not watched that video, go watch it now. I'll link it to the end of this video. You know, I talk more about that. Now let's quickly go to the war map because we said we would, and we said we would because claimed Russian. Russian forces are claiming to be taking more towns in the Donetsk region, in that area where they're pushing towards Pokrovsk. And remember what we've said on this channel, guys. We've said once they take Pokrovsk, that's going to be a pivotal moment in this conflict, because then the European Union are going to have to make, I say the European Union, not NATO, because NATO, it's obsolete. You know, because the European Union are then going to have to make that decision. Right, do we send troops in now? Is now the time to send troops? Ukraine have already asked for troops to be sent in there on this training mission. But again, with training comes operational mentoring. The best place to do operational mentoring is in an operation. So you would be a section commander, you would train 8 guys up, or 10 or whatever, 15, it doesn't matter. You would then go out and deploy with those guys. You would be there as a section commander, as a second in command of that team, or you know what I mean. You'd be there with that team and you'd be pushing forwards to help those guys move forwards. And that all comes under the remit of training. Yeah, so let's have a look at the war map, guys, and let's see how far we are from Pokrovsk. And remember, you know, we've got these long-range ballistic missiles that are en route to Russia. Potentially, in fact, they're even there now from our last video, and they're saying that this could be days. Sorry, this could be a mass attack within weeks. Right. So where are we? So 9. So it's not updated. So that was the 7th. I'll say the movement has slowed, but they're still moving forwards, and that's the thing. The Russians are still moving forwards. Day by day, inch by inch, the inevitability of the Russians taking control of Pokrovsk is, guys, it's going to happen at some point. So let's see let's just quickly, guys, while we're here, let's see what the distance is. So let's go there, right in the middle of Pokrovsk, and we'll go here at the edge of there. Wow. So that's as the crow flies from the leading edge of the Russian advance. That is 10.6 kilometers. Wow. I mean, that is in range of, so that's at company level. So mortars, so your mortars would be able to hit that. So good company mortars, 120mm mortar would be able to hit that. I think the US Marines have a mortar with a rifled barrel, and that has a range of 13 kilometers. I don't know if the Russians have something. They may have something similar. They've certainly got 120mm mortar. They may have rocket-assisted mortars or something. But guys, at 10.6 kilometers, and that's from the center of Pokrovsk as well. So they're well within range of company, company assets. And definitely in the range of battalion assets. So that I would say that place is being bombarded daily. Obviously, I don't know. I don't know anybody on the ground there. No, I don't know anybody who knows anybody on the ground there. From what I can gather, the Ukrainians have been told to evacuate that location because the inevitability of that ground falling is, guys, it's a matter of days, not weeks. Obviously, from what we've seen, those of you who've been following this channel, we've been keeping tabs on this, and we've been saying, look, since the Ukrainians pushed into Russia, the intensity of the battle towards Pokrovsk, it's just intensified. Now, I think it could have kind of been a double-edged sword for the Ukrainians, investing that many troops into Russia, because, the Russians are like, right, okay, so we don't have to do anything. We just keep you guys there. You guys are using a lot of your most experienced soldiers in Pokrovsk, in the Kursk region. You're not really achieving much. We have got a ton of your guys, a ton of your equipment. We've got it contained there. Equally, on the other side of the argument, you've got the Ukrainians now within striking distance from the nuclear power plant in the Kursk region. If they can capture that power plant, that is going to be absolutely huge for the Ukrainians. If they can't capture it, they may have to destroy it. And again, This is warfare, guys. You can't, you can't point the finger at anyone for doing something in warfare. They're both in a fight for their lives now, and let's be fair as well. Let's be objective. The Russians did start to attack the Ukrainian power grid first. So Putin can't complain, and he can't, he can't point the finger and say, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, because he's doing it himself, But let's just wait and see what happens when Putin starts to use these long-range ballistic missiles. I think he's going to use them all at once in a mass blitzkrieg, in a mass, a revenge-type attack. Because remember, there's not been any specific revenge from the, from the Ukrainians going into the, into the Kursk region. Yes, you've seen the pushes in the east, but nothing substantial, nothing like you would expect from Putin's regime. Anyway, guys, that's it. I've waffled on for far too long again. I'm going to mag to grid. Don't forget to like my stuff, share my stuff on your socials. And that's it, guys. I'll try and get you guys a video later, and we're moving forwards every day into getting this little studio set up, being able to do podcasts and being able to have guests on. Guys, I'll speak to you guys later. I'm going to mag to grid.